Hi, Dr. Stephanie Waggle here. The following is a topic that I have not discussed much since becoming a mother 5 years ago. It is something that I have left in the past. However, I would like to prevent it from happening to other people in the future, so I have decided to talk about it today. Specifically, I am teaching med and pre-med students, and I think it'll be important for them to understand how to get accommodations during their medical training. So this video will be for anybody going into medical training that is not clairvoyant, because nobody can predict when they're going to be affected by a chronic illness. The following images are from when I was diagnosed with cancer and how I attempted to get accommodations for that. And I will try my very best to give some advice about how to navigate the process if this unfortunately were to happen to you as a medical trainee.
I'd been very sick for a while, and they discovered that I had cancer, so I had scheduled to get a partial nephrectomy in July of 2015. And here is the note, and this is the note that I sent to the administration of where I worked. And at that same time, I didn't know if I was going to live or die, and I wanted to go to Italy before I died. Although I had informed everybody that I had kidney cancer, the fact that I was going to Italy before my surgery started this rumor. Let me read it for you. I was speaking to Stephanie yesterday at the retreat. She mentioned she was going to Italy this week. I was really surprised and kind of made me wonder how serious this kidney issue really is. This move seems to argue more in favor of a psychological issue. So I had sent everybody the information about my surgery, and I informed everybody that I had kidney cancer. However, people are going to talk, and unfortunately, some of the higher ups where I was working informed people that my kidney issue was not serious and that I was just trying to get out of work to go on a trip to Italy, as demonstrated in this email, which was revealed to me later on. Thankfully, I didn't die, but I did have a lot of follow-up that I had to engage in. I knew everybody knew that I had cancer, so I wrote this email and I tried to get my scheduled follow-ups with my oncologist and my geneticist written down. I emailed it to as many people as I could. I said, below are the dates and times for my doctor's appointments that I will be able to arrange. I took into considerations everyone's suggestions, because people did say you can't go out on this date because there's nobody to cover you, and you can't go out on this date because there's a heavy workload XYZ. So I arranged my oncology follow-up appointments around everybody else's schedule, and then I posted them in this email and emailed them to everybody that I could. Arranging these doctor's visits was very difficult because, as you can see, I had to pick a day where there were no other residents or fellows out. I had to take into account everybody's suggestions. I could not take off for a didactic day. There were specific requests from different attendings, and then some exam days. So whenever I was scheduling my appointments, which is already very tough because a lot of specialists are really booked far out, I took into consideration all of the days that I was not permitted to be excused from work, and I found the days below, and I emailed them to everybody, as you can see here. And then I awaited any further suggestions. It's really important to understand your specific entity's accommodation process, because at this time I was very naive, assuming erroneously that having cancer and making people aware of when my future appointments were and taking into consideration their availability as well would have been sufficient. But unfortunately, even though I arranged the dates around other people's schedules and explained that I would be missing those dates ahead of time, I was still I don't want to say punished, but yeah, punished for missing those days in the form of written feedback that I'm unprofessional for not attending my shift that day. So I felt bad, even though in retrospect I shouldn't. Any humane entity should understand that when somebody has cancer, they're going to be missing days. But I tried my very best, and so I sent a doctor's excuse. And so I have an example of it here. I really wasn't familiar with the forms or accommodations or FMLA or ADA or any of these legal things because I had spent my years in medical school. I had no legal training whatsoever. I do recommend that if you have a serious medical illness, you hire a lawyer to help you navigate this process, because what you assume would be the way to do it is not usually the way to do it, at least in my experience. Straightforward things like emailing people ahead of time, sending in doctor's excuses was not sufficient. And in fact, the message didn't get conveyed to all the people that it needed to, as you can see here in the next email screenshot. So as you can see in this email, I respectfully took out everybody's name and the organization, because although these individuals hurt me, I have found it in myself to forgive them, and I have moved past this. I've had children, and I have had time to focus on this trauma, so I don't hold any grudges against anybody, so I did remove their names. It says, "Hey, Steph, I thought it was approved, which is why I sent you a confirmation regarding it. I apologize for the miscommunication." So, honest mistakes. I informed some people that I wasn't going to be coming for a shift, but other people were uninformed, and then it just looked like I was no-showing for my shifts, unfortunately. So I reached out to try to figure out what more I could possibly do. So you see, this is the end of October, and you'll see coming up here at the beginning of November, I went to as many administrative offices as I could and tried to pick up some forms. So this is back in 2015. So, things were on the internet, but it wasn't as readily available as it is now. But I got paper forms from them, which I went to my doctor's office, and this is my doctor's handwriting. It fills out that I have kidney cancer and that I need to see a urologist, an oncologist, a psychologist, and a fertility specialist. You can see there, it's still part of one medical fax, but you can read that those are the specialists that I'll be following up with. 4, it says kidney cancer. His writing is doctor's writing, but it basically describes that I need CT scans and ultrasounds and more testing and those sorts of things. It also notes my pain and insomnia and other symptoms. And then it says continuous medical leave, which is described on the bottom line. And then going to the second page, it asks for me to be excused approximately 2 hours per day, 2 days per month, from November 16th of 2015 to July 16th of 2018. So that's a 3-year period, which kind of makes sense when you have cancer. So if I'm going to be going to a couple doctor's appointments each month for the next 3 years, that is what my doctor requested. And then he signed at the bottom. I left his info on because he is great, and I want everybody to know that this Dr. Shepard is an amazing man. Unfortunately, not everybody that I encountered during my cancer diagnosis was as amazing. You can see here, I redacted the name because I don't want any hard feelings. It is an email that I was not copied on from a couple administrative/attending, basically higher up people in the organization. I suspect she misled you, and as you can see, the subject is my name. So I suspect she misled you somewhat about her medical condition. That has been a pattern with her. She certainly has gone through something, but at this time she does not have a critical medical condition. So unfortunately, the gossip and rumors about me were going on. And this isn't just your typical schoolyard gossip. These are people who were in charge of me and responsible for grading me throughout my training. And so if you were a teacher and you were getting a student and another teacher had informed you that the student that you were about to get is lying about having cancer, I don't believe that you would have a fair assessment. So unfortunately, I didn't know it, but I could figure out that there was something going on because people that I had never met before seemed to be very standoffish towards me, which was unusual. And in retrospect, looking back, I can see that it is because people, before they had even an opportunity to get to know me, thought that I was this girl running around lying about having cancer, which made people really judge me critically, micromanage me. And of course, if they hear that there's somebody going around lying about cancer, they're going to tell other people in their circles. Fortunately, there were plenty of people who had already met me that knew that there was no way that I was lying about having cancer. There had been so many people to visit me in my hospital bed and see drainage tubes coming out of me, and anybody that wants to see my scars can see it. So people definitely knew that I was not lying about having cancer, and they looked out for me, and they informed me of these rumors going on behind my back. And people anonymously would leave letters in my mailbox or screenshots of emails saying things about me. Friends were warning me about what was going on behind my back. Co-workers that I hardly knew would come over and just say, like, hey, like, you didn't hear it from me, but look at this email that we got stating that we need to watch out for you because you're a liar and you say that you have cancer, but you don't really have cancer. When I found this out, I cried. I was shocked. But I wasn't so shocked because then it made so much more sense that people that I didn't know were treating me so unkindly. So when I discovered these emails going around about me, it all made so much more sense. So obviously I was really upset. So I went, and you can see here that I filed a grievance about this. It's really important to understand what papers to fill out and to find as many of them as humanly possible. Even though, if you remember at the beginning, I stated, I will be out on these days. I am sick. Here's my sick note. Here's the days that I'm missing. Please tell me if there's any other things I can do or any other people that I can inform. And I went to the offices and I filled out the FMLA. There were still people that weren't aware of the days that I was supposed to be off. So I decided to go outside the institution and go to the government, and I filled out forms with their Equal Employment Opportunity Commission as well. And so I took it upon myself to learn as much as I could about the law and to sign as many forms as I could in order to protect me and prevent more people from treating me unfairly due to the rumor about me lying about having cancer. After I filed a complaint to the government about the institution that I was working for, the institution that I was working for started sending me some pretty nasty reprimand letters. So at the time, I was pretty clueless about what was going on behind the scenes. A lot came to the forefront later on that I discovered, and the pieces started fitting together. But I got in trouble for, let's see, some of the following that people wrote down about me: using her phone during meetings, rolling my eyes, provocative clothing, tight pants, making staff uncomfortable with my tight pants, heavens to Betsy, to the point that people have to talk to me about my tight pants, sitting in the room and doesn't check with you for roundings. I guess they meant the attending. I guess this is not including me. This is going back and forth between some bosses, some higher-ups, lack of communication from me, need to track what I'm doing, showing up late daily. Oh my gosh, couldn't have been about the insomnia and pain that my doctor had written about during my FMLA application that he asked for them to take into consideration when making accommodations for me. That I'm leaving notes at the nurse's station as if I wasn't attending, and that I walk out of meetings without permission. Well, I was peeing blood a great deal. I suppose that I could have just peed on the floor. I don't know what people expected from me. I signed everything that I could find and asked for so much help. And this is why I want people in the future to know how hard you have to work to get accommodations. If you sign one form and you think that's it, hire a lawyer. I know it's expensive, but in the end, it'll be worth it. Hire a lawyer, see if they can find any other forms, because ultimately I was told that they were justified in getting rid of me because I didn't sign all of the forms. I, to this day, don't know where to find or what the name of this supposed form that I didn't sign was. As you can see, I respected their requests and didn't take off days that they really needed me for. I told them ahead of time when my doctor's appointments are going to be. I sent in a sick note. I filled out both continuous and intermittent FMLA forms. I had my doctor sign it. I had my doctor write what specialist I was going to. I had my doctor write down my symptoms, and they are justified in getting rid of me because the documentation that I made was not enough. There was still some other form somewhere that I didn't sign, and I wear provocative clothing. I'm unprofessional. I leave. I have conversations on the phone. I roll my eyes at people. Of course, when you're under the microscope like this, everybody is going to pick up every negative thing you do. Like I said, if you're a teacher and another teacher tells you one of your students is faking having cancer, you're gonna be pretty hard when you judge them. So I don't want this to happen to other people. Like, this is just such a strange and unfortunately very common situation that happens. I mean, I've gotten hundreds of emails from other people in the same position saying they thought that they did everything they needed for accommodations and they didn't get the accommodations. I missed so many of my doctor's appointments because I was not permitted to leave, and I do not want the future generations of healthcare workers to, if you get sick or if something happens, I don't want you to get punished for leaving. So if you have any issues, if you have therapy you need to go to, or a family member with chronic illness, sign as many papers as you can. And even if you think that you signed everything, you probably didn't. And I really do recommend hiring somebody that knows about the legal system to help you navigate, because the accommodations process can be really tough.
So you might be thinking, wow, that's a wild story. Sure won't happen to me. It's probably very rare. Well, when my story became the 4th most read article on the Washington Post, the #1 most read article on Medscape, and the #1 most read article on Kevin MD, my story got out there and people contacted me. It wasn't a rare occurrence. Quite literally, hundreds of people contacted me. Medical students, PA students, nurses, residents, all stating that they became sick with a chronic illness and they didn't know what to do, and they tried their very best, and they either were retaliated against or fired or had other negative outcomes. So it's not a one-off. It happens quite frequently. And so I think it's very important for everybody to be prepared as best they can. You don't know the future. You don't know if a family member will be diagnosed with a chronic illness or you yourself will be diagnosed with a disability. So it is important to prepare for that right now.